Hey kids, join the club. Get the all-new CCXCC t-shirt made with 100% mutant power. Be like these cool kids. Get it now on dinobeast.com and chrisandersoncomics.com. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Chris Claremont X-Men Comic Club. I'm here, as always, with my partner in club, John Coates. How you doing, John?
Oh, I'm doing great, Chris. I'm just getting ready for some colder weather by reading about some of our neighbors up north.
Yeah, it's been very cold in Los Angeles. It's been like 70. So
You
that's
mother.
that's cold for us. So yeah, we are on issue 121 of the Uncanny X-Men. We last issue saw us the X-Men on their way back from Japan. Their plane got diverted by some weather forces that they could not see, but it was not natural. And they find themselves in sunny Calgary, and are met by the Vindicator and a team of yet to be revealed Alpha Flight members. Well, I mean, they revealed them. They revealed them the last issue in their civilian forms, but now we're going to get to see what they look like.
Would they be Alpha Flightians?
Yeah,
Alpha Flightans, maybe?
Alpha Flutes. Yeah.
Alpha Flightmen?
Yeah. All Flightians, right. Sure.
Yeah. So interesting note here on the cover. This is May of 1979, and this is the first issue of X-Men that is now 40 cents.
Way to go, Carter.
That is a nickel increase in price.
Yeah.
From the previous issue.
Yep.
And there we also have one revision from last time where we said we thought John Byrne was Canadian. That is incorrect. He's actually British.
Ew.
And moved to Canada when he was 8 years old.
Oh, just like Claremont.
So he's, so he grew up most of his formative years Canadian, but was actually born in England.
Okay.
So fun fact. Yeah.
Under the Queen's law, no matter where he went, but yes.
Yeah. So maybe X-Men is the first British invasion comic.
I mean,
predating Alan Moore and those guys.
Yeah. Yep.
Yep. You heard it here. Breaking news.
Breaking news. Did only 40 years in the making.
That's right. So right off the bat, Dave Cockrum on cover duties, and we get a good look at a few of our Alpha Flight members here.
Yeah.
Of course, our Vindicator in the front, and pretty soon they're gonna, lay it out for us. This is Snowbird and Sasquatch.
Yeah, they show the two cool-looking ones on the cover.
Yeah, and it's an okay action cover. Like Cockrum's got a lot better covers
for sure.
But I mean, it's kind of hard to get. You got 6 people duking it out in a snowstorm on your cover.
Yeah, there's a lot.
The easiest thing.
There's a lot to and there's a lot to deal with on these covers back then. Anyway, there's all this text. There's a banner on top, and there's the corner box, and you got a barcode there you got to deal with, and there's just a lot to deal with anyway. But and then you got to work in the title.
Yeah.
So you throw in 6 characters, which Cockrum actually kind of did pretty frequently on the covers, but for what he had to deal with, he did a pretty great job.
Yeah. And here we go. Alpha Flight attacks.
Ding, ding, ding.
The X-Men battle to save Wolverine from Canada's fighting mad superheroes.
Oh, yeah.
Well, let's see if they can do it. So this is, of course, a Chris Claremont and John Byrne joint. Terry Austin on inks, Diana Albers on letters, and Glynis Wein on colors.
He really, Byrne really got in there into the mix with the plotting too. It's kind of cool that that he took it upon himself. I don't know how it happened, but it seems kind of cool that he's like that invested in this story as an artist to want to, you know, co-plot too. I wonder if that was a mutual feeling with Claremont, or if that was I wonder how that worked.
Yeah, from what I've read, it was. And
Okay.
that Claremont would, with a lot of the artists he would work with, he would kind of, at the very least, check with them on like what they like to draw,
Yeah,
what kind of characters they maybe want to focus on. If they had a cool idea for something,
mm-hmm.
let him know, and they'd work it out and work it into a story. Yeah, and you never know to what degree different artists had like plotting, like how much plotting they did with him. You know, maybe some guys did more, maybe some guys did less.
Yeah, I'll be curious to see what other artists that come along, if any of them
Yeah.
are, you know, listed as
And
co-plotter.
yeah, and that's the thing to, yeah, definitely the thing for us to keep an eye on, because I'm not sure all of them get listed in this manner where it says
Right.
co-plotter.
Yeah, that seems like there's
Yeah.
something extra going on there. And we do know that Byrne ended up you know, going on to write the titles that he was working on himself.
Yeah,
and for other
almost
people.
everything when he leaves X-Men, he writes it himself.
Yeah.
Like a lot of it, he does the whole thing. And you know, Claremont and Byrne, I think they had a really good relationship for quite a while, because they worked on a lot of books together, did a lot of issues, you know, a lot of stuff before they even did X-Men.
Sure.
And so they seemed like a pretty tight crew for a little bit.
So there's a McCartney-Lennon thing going on here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Shootout at the Stampede. I will say this might be the weakest opening splash page we have seen in X-Men yet.
Definitely is. That gate on Cyclops is goofy, and it's just very uninspired.
Yeah, it's just so milk toast.
I think this is an actual place too, and I wonder if because he's using sort of reference, even though it's just very simple front of the place, if that had to do with his lackluster opening. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good theory, Chris, because maybe they had a good picture of this, like an iconic looking entrance to the place, and they wanted to get that in there.
Yeah.
And this was like the best way to do that.
Yeah. But again, it's also comics. You got to keep moving forward. If it didn't work out the first time, you keep moving. And if anybody really has a bad problem with it, then you go back to it later. But
yep. And so they tell us here the Calgary Stampede is a vast recreational complex and fairground.
Yeah. And it's locked up, right? Because it's closed.
It's done. Yeah, the park is closed because your winter is approaching. So there's no more rodeo action.
Right. And they're looking for Nightcrawler and Wolverine, who have been kidnapped or taken away by Alpha Flight, and they can sense that they're in here. That first page is kind of interesting, where they're trying to bust through, and it talks about how Colossus and Cyclops are working together to open the door, but they're hitting two different doors.
Yeah. And I like the way, like, they say opening the door, and they're not opening it, they're just like destroying it.
Through it.
Yeah, they're crushing that thing.
Man, no respect for Canada.
I know, right? So here we go. Here's our 3 remaining X-Men running into the Stampede, trying to find out where Wolverine and Nightcrawler are. And here in the shadows, we get our first Alpha Flight in here.
Yep. So the last issue, all of them in their costumes were in the shadow, and they continue that in this issue in the beginning.
Yeah, still keeping them under wraps. Although they did kind of show us their human human alter egos with their code names. So we at least know that. And, by the hair and by what he's saying here, we know that this is Shaman. And he's saying he can make sure no innocents get involved. He's going to scatter magic dust across the entrance to seal the campgrounds.
Yeah.
So he's got some magic powers.
Yeah, I like this guy.
Yeah, Shaman's super cool. And then Cyclops, as they're sort of walking around, now we have our little flashback of last issue. And like Chris said, the X-Men, they're coming back from Japan. They get ambushed. Wolverine, Nightcrawler get kidnapped. And then Storm has sort of tracked Vindicator's energy pattern to the campground.
Right. You get that sort of every comic is someone's first comic thing here, where we get, the flashback from the issue previous.
Yep.
And, because at this time too, there weren't very many, if at all, comic shops still, right? And you were just picking up random comics on spinner racks at your 7-Eleven or
newsstand culture. You can't rely on always getting the next issue.
Right.
And so here we go. Our reveal is kind of spoiled a little bit, but the X-Men, they're going basically, and they bust through the gates and they come into this big arena that I'm assuming is like a big rodeo arena. And they know it's a trap, but they got to go in anyways. They're like, it's obviously going to be a trap, but we got to get our friends. And all of a sudden the lights are turned on. And Colossus is like, by the White Wolf. And here we go. Here's our big reveal finally of our full Alpha Flight team in costume. Sasquatch, Snowbird, Vindicator, the siblings Northstar and Aurora, and our man Shaman.
Are these the first characters that we're seeing that that Byrne has designed himself?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, they all sort of have that form-fitting body thing with some elvish collar symbols on them. They're kind of like very uninspired costumes, except for Snowbird and Sasquatch. So I was like wondering if that was the case.
Yeah, and I mean, they're definitely the most interesting of the two. Like Snowbird is like a really interesting look, and Sasquatch is amazing looking.
Yeah,
he's just a giant, Sasquatch.
Yeah, but look at Shaman. He's got that like jagged thing around his collar. Aurora and Northstar both have the same thing, and then even Vindicator with the maple leaf is kind of, sort of the same thing. It's like almost all the same kind of. I mean, which ties it together if they're a team, I guess. So I can. Okay, all right.
Yeah, and like if you think about Wolverine as being starting out as Alpha Flight, he's got the sort of 3 jet lines across his sides.
This is true too.
So maybe that was kind of inspiration of like, well, maybe we can kind of keep some pointy design on all of them a little bit.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, I'll go with it.
And Vindicator lays it out for us. Hey, we've got no quarrel with you, X-Men. You can take your blue-skinned friend and go. We'll guarantee your safe conduct, but Wolverine stays. So, that's reasonable.
Yeah, then why did they lure them in?
Yeah, they're quite pushy.
Yeah.
And we're going to take a brief second here. He flashes back to the front of the Stampede complex, and Banshee arrives along with Misty Knight and Colleen Wing, who, if we remember, were in Japan with the X-Men.
Yep.
And Banshee tries to go inside and thump runs into this invisible wall, which is what Shaman did with his magic dust. So kind of shows us the effects of that.
Yep.
Yeah. And then here we get our two leaders, Cyclops and Vindicator, facing off. And, you know, Cyclops, of course, still hates Vindicator because he almost killed Moira McTaggart way back in issue 109, as it tells us. And the Sasquatch almost killed the X-Men in their airplane, the previous issue.
Yeah.
And Vindicator tries to say, like, well, those were accidents. And Cyclops is like, yeah, you seem to have a lot of them.
Yeah, I kind of love that little moment.
Yeah. And it's like, ooh, okay, getting testy. And Cyclops is like, oh, yeah, you're going to keep Wolverine even if he doesn't want to stay? That stinks. And then Vindicator's like, well, you better get used to the smell. It's like, yes, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's like two basketball teams just talking shit to each other, you know?
Yeah. And in the background, North Star sucks. What a crap. What a turd. He's kind of edging in, getting ready to do something, and Colossus notices him.
Yeah.
And Colossus is going to make the first move to prevent it. And so he does this awesome Hulk-style foot stomp right here. Boom! To just shake everybody up and give Cyclops a heads up.
I think it's funny that he says that he's moving behind Cyclops, and in none of these panels is he anywhere near behind Cyclops.
Yeah. Well, you know, in his armored form, maybe his depth perception is a little bit, you know, distorted, you know, because of the metal.
Yeah. I love that stomp though, the way that on the ground it kind of does that.
Mm-hmm. And you know, it's something that I don't know that we've seen Colossus do a move like that to this point in X-Men.
No.
You know, and I don't know that he does that like a lot going forward, but that's like a super cool thing.
I feel like that was something that he did in like the X-Men video game, the arcade game.
Oh man, we could talk about some X-Men arcade. Boy, I love that thing.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. There's an arcade in town, a barcade that's got one with the double screens.
Yeah.
Oh,
that's awesome.
Yeah. So yeah, that kicks off the fight, and here comes Sasquatch in right away.
Yeah.
Throwing haymakers right into Colossus, and Vindicator tries to stop it. He's like, no, I don't want to fight. And then Wolverine was playing like he was knocked out, and he's like rips his shirt off. He's like, a little late for that, Jimmy.
Yeah. They were playing possum.
Yeah, and Nightcrawler teleports out of there. Bamf. More great Bamf action with the teleporting by John Byrne. Like, oh, he is so good at that.
Yeah, he really is.
Yeah. And Storm's like, oh, you're awake. And Wolverine's like, you got it, babe. Me and the elf, we're playing possum. And I always loved how Wolverine and Nightcrawler's relationship, where they're such buddies, and then like he's always calling him Elf.
Yeah,
it's like they're like good buddies, like bro nickname.
Yeah, this is like pet name for him, right?
Yeah. And of course, Storm takes to the air so she can fight from up above, and Snowbird goes chasing her. Great action page, great color, great movement.
Yep, really great page.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he got rid of all the backgrounds, and so that you could just focus on the action for one page.
Yeah, and you almost don't even notice, because you got all these characters front and center, and that's what your focus is. Mm-hmm. Our next page, yeah. So here we get some cool stuff with our man Shaman.
Yes, these are awesome.
And I've had discussions with my brother before about the Native American characters that always show up in like Marvel and stuff. Like when they have powers, they're always like magical, like totemic, or they have to do with animals, like,
Yeah.
Every single time. And not that it, it's just kind of like, I don't know, it'd be nice if they changed a little bit. But
Yeah.
it's never like a bad thing. Like they're still cool characters. But anyways, Shaman does this awesome thing. He pulls this little like totem pole and then throws it, and like the pieces come apart and make these like little dudes that can like attack. It's like very much like Soundwave from the Transformers.
Yeah.
With the little cassette tapes.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Super cool.
I'm all about little creatures like gremlins or like those kinds of things, and like these little henchmen kind of thing that he can send out to work for him. It's so cool. I don't know if it's tricky because I don't know how, like, if that's like offensive or not, but it looks cool.
Yeah. It's super cool. And I forgot that he did this.
Yeah.
Like in this issue until rereading it for this week. And I was like, whoa, that is awesome.
Yeah.
And so Cyclops blast one, and he's trying to lead the show. He's like, form on me, X-Men. And he gets sucker punched in the back by, you guessed it, North Star.
Man.
With a sucker punch.
So North Star's power is that he's like a Quicksilver kind of character.
Yeah. Basically, and he can fly. So basically the siblings, they're like super fast and they run and fly. Yeah, and his other power is he's kind of a dick.
Yeah.
And so Nightcrawler goes after his sister, and she tries to just like fly away from him, and he's like starting to teleport to catch up, and they're almost kind of flirting as they go.
Yeah, it almost looks like her power is she's just like greasy, like a like one of those wet water worm willy things. Just try to grab it and it slips out of your hand.
Yeah, and she's like, "Oh, you'll have to catch me, Monsieur Nightcrawler," and that's easier said than done. And Nightcrawler's like, "Want to bet?"
Yeah, who's saying that's easier said than done? Is it?
I think she's saying that.
Oh, and she's off in the distance there. Got it. Okay.
Yeah, it's a little confusing there.
Yeah.
So here's where we start to get an interesting other plot point that comes in. So Storm is flying up above, and Snowbird is chasing her.
Yep.
And Storm is basically thinking that she could overwhelm Snowbird with just by using her powers.
Right.
But the local weather patterns are so unstable, she doesn't want to risk actually using her weather powers.
Right.
Because we remember last issue, Shaman manipulated the weather to get the X-Men's plane to land in Calgary.
Right.
So everybody remember that little point, because it's going to keep coming back here. And Snowbird here is going to show us kind of what she can do. Yeah. So she changes into a giant owl.
Super cool. Very Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah. Shape changer. And she her eyes get real big, and you can
it's cool.
See her mid-change.
Yeah, it feels very Animen.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you guys all remember from the very beginning of our shows.
That's right. Snowbird is a shape changer, which is another like reason why she's also like one of the cooler members of Alpha Flight. Just
Totally.
visually, the things that you can do with her.
Yeah.
And back to the ground. Here's our main scrapper, Wolverine, just sort of slicing and dicing the other totem.
Yeah. So
guy.
did they grow, or is Wolverine just so small?
I think both.
Yeah.
I mean, they definitely grew when Shaman threw them.
Yeah.
And he's kind of crouched down, but he is pretty short. So yeah. And then here's Shaman doing this cool little float, sort of floating in air, you know, with his legs bent up as he's like whipping wind around.
Yeah. So he's still manipulating the weather here.
Yeah. And doing more cool magic-y stuff. And so now we're going to start to see the effects of all this weird weather manipulation. And basically that little wind he used to throw Nightcrawler or throw Wolverine around sort of like tipped the weather patterns. It was like too much.
Yeah.
And so now stuff is just this huge blizzard coming from the North Pole is just out of control, and he can't stop it, and he doesn't know what's happening.
Yeah, they talk about how it's like a spring that was wound up and just got released, and it's gonna like snow down in like they say like it's gonna snow in the Caribbean or something like that. Like it's so massive.
Yeah. And so we get a look at some of our civilians out here just out for a nice dinner.
Yeah.
And what do you know? It's Mr.
It's John.
Mr. John Byrne himself out on the town. And all of a sudden the weather, hail, snow is like enough that it breaks the window right next to him.
Yep.
Yeah, not good. And back in our stampede here, Colossus is still trying to duke it out with Sasquatch. And Sasquatch here mentions at the beginning of last issue, in his human form, it mentioned like he's a scientist, but it also mentioned that he was a football player, and we assumed Canadian football, but actually it must have been American football because he says he took worse shots from the Steelers.
Yeah.
So that's pretty funny. And Wolverine is going to try and sneak up on Shaman. And we get some nice little bits here where he's just thinking about this whole mess that's going on. I should have known Hudson wouldn't let me go. I probably cost too flamin' much money. I just wish I was going this route alone. I don't want the X-Men to get scragged on my account.
Yeah.
Yep. And on cue, here comes Vindicator swooping in, blasting Wolverine. And then everybody else is still going at it. And Cyclops kind of yells at Colossus don't just use your excuse me. Don't just use your fist. Use your brain. And that's when he uses a judo move.
Yep.
To throw the big dude down. Oh yeah, that's sweet.
That's using your brain.
Yeah. And then here we get another look at people outside as the blizzard gets worse and worse.
Yep.
And it mentions inside where the X-Men and Alpha Flight are fighting, since Shaman cast this little protective dome around it, they're feeling the effects of the weather, but it's not quite as bad.
Right.
So that's why they're not 100% aware of how bad it is just yet. And here we get a great little cheeky moment from Nightcrawler. So here's our Aurora sort of pausing. She thinks she's lost him, but he shows up on this wall above her.
Always
And
cool when he bamps back in and is in shadow like that.
yeah. And he sneaks on down and gives her a kiss. And she's like, "You elf!" and like zooms off. And he's like, "Tally ho!" It's a very like a Pepe Le Pew.
Very Pepe Le Pew. Yes.
Yeah. Kind of chase going on. And it kind of adds a nice little lighthearted moment, you know? Because Nightcrawler's a lighthearted guy, and we kind of get the sense from Aurora that like she's kind of lighthearted too. Like she's not a scrapper, she says. She's more of a lover at heart.
Yeah, and there's like some chemistry between the two of them, I feel like, you know?
Yeah, and they both have pointed ears, so it's like, oh, maybe, you know?
Yeah.
Future love interest, possibly. So back down here with Vindicator and Wolverine, this is where we get some more good back history here. And Wolverine is like yelling at him, "You never gave me a choice about being changed or about joining your tin pot Yukon Avengers. Why should you start now?" And Vindicator says, "Logan, it's not that simple. Heather and I gave you a home, a chance to be human instead of the feral wild child you'd been. If you're anything today, it's because of me." And Wolverine says, "What I am, Vindicator, is free, and I'm going to stay free or die."
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So nice little drop in there about Wolverine being this just feral sort of wild man in the woods, and that, you know, Vindicator is like, and his wife took him in and kind of civilized him.
Yeah.
Basically.
We haven't, you know, obviously the whole Weapon X Barry Windsor Smith stuff hasn't happened yet. So, you know, this is what we got for a story.
And you know, for anybody that would know, you know, knows, of course, the Weapon X thing, that would of course be before, you know, Vindicator and stuff finds him.
Right.
Yeah. So it's very cool. I really like this sort of introduction of like this kind of a backstory for Wolverine. Like it's very different than the other X-Men's histories. And it's interesting. And it's different than like other hero histories.
Well, that's why he became so popular, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. This crazy.
Plus claws are awesome.
Yeah. And right then, at that point, basically it says the snow that's been falling turns to ice and is like knives or rifle bullets.
Damn.
Tearing through stuff. And at that point, now everybody realizes what's going on.
Yeah.
And they stop fighting, and Vindicator's like, "Shaman, what's happening?" And he's like, "I don't know." We'll do this the fan 4 with Herbie.
Oh, yeah, look at that.
Is that possibly a better lineup than the Human Torch? Little controversy. Oh my gosh. So here we go. Who knows what's going on? Storm knows what's going on. That's who. And she can tell things are just way out of control. And so she basically takes her cape off and just uses it to catch Snowbird quick and drop her on the ground so that now she can go use her actual weather powers to try and fix things.
Yeah, I think that's a really cool move that she does there. I kind of missed that she had done that. And then like the next page, you see where her cape is off. And I was like, why does she look different? Oh, okay. I see what she did there.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's almost like, you know, like she's been playing with Snowbird. Like, you know, she hasn't been using her actual weather powers.
Yeah.
And it's finally she's just like, okay, I'm just gonna take my cape off and catch this stupid bird and get down to real business.
Yeah. That page
Yeah.
has really great flow too.
Yeah. And like the wind effects, like you really get a sense of like it's like chaotic and crazy stuff's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And Storm on her way up is kind of thinking to herself that she doesn't even know if she can stop the weather.
Yeah.
It's like it might be way too crazy and way too out of control, and it might even kill her.
Yep.
But she's got to try. And she gets up here, and we get her in sort of these like not quite silhouettes, but it's images, and she's reaching out and slowly sort of draining the power of the storm and diffusing it and sending it away and sort of getting rid of it. And she finishes a little before dawn. So like she was up there for hours.
Yeah.
And everyone else has just been kind of down here hanging out, basically waiting for her. And she saves the day. And what happens right after she saves the day and she's crazy tired? She gets sucker punched by guess who? Mr. Terrible North Star.
What a dick. What a dick.
Yeah. And Cyclops loses it and then zaps him right in his stupid face. And here he goes down. Boom. Great little.
Yeah, you feel that one.
Yeah.
The way he's flipping.
And then Cyclops grabs him and is ready to just pummel him into unconsciousness. And suddenly Wolverine grabs his hand.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. And Wolverine basically is telling him, hey, don't punch him. Storm's okay. I checked on her. This fight's over.
Yeah. Funny how the tables have turned here, the characters.
Yeah. And like this is one of these maybe not the first moment, but it's like kind of a big moment almost where all of a sudden Wolverine is like less psychotic.
Yeah.
He's less just trying to be like a dick all the time or trying to like needle people and be mean. Like he's like he's almost like he's like a real like person. He's like, okay, hey, like an honorable person,
Yeah.
Kind of like he's growing up.
Yeah, a little bit. Yep.
Yeah. And basically he's saying like I would have called an end to the fight earlier, but I was kind of enjoying it. But I don't want to see anyone get chewed up on my account. I'm going to go with Alpha Flight.
I mean, he's still a little bit of a dick.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah. And he basically is like, yeah, and the X-Men get to go free. And Vindicator's like, yeah, you have my word.
Yep.
And he's like, I better, bub. And then back outside again, Banshee is going to try and shove through that wall again. And all of a sudden it's gone because, Shaman's protective bubble is gone.
Mm-hmm.
And this weird armored car shows up that was specially built to contain the Wolverine.
So funny.
Yeah. And they put him in this like armored cage. And, the other X-Men are not cool with it. Like Colossus is like, Wolverine is not an animal, Cyclops. That man did not have to treat him like that. And Cyclops is like, I know. And there goes Wolverine in this little armored car.
Mm-hmm.
And then the X-Men are basically flying home with a military escort. And then they reach U.S. airspace, and the escort leaves, and instantly Cyclops is like, okay, we got to make a plan. We're going back to rescue him.
Yeah, we can't leave Wolverine like that. He's our teammate. We're gonna go get him.
And everybody's in, including Banshee, who doesn't even have powers anymore.
Yeah.
And he's telling the pilot, like, Annie, change course. Here's what we're doing. And then this person sitting in the co-pilot's chair is like,
you can just see his shoulder there and a little ear.
I wouldn't do that if I were you, bub. Like, Wolverine?
Wah, wah, wah.
Yeah, what are you doing here? And he's like, what's it look like? I'm riding home in style and John with a pretty girl.
Yeah, I love that line.
Yeah. And basically he's just like, yeah, well, there hasn't been a cage built that can hold me. And he's like, well, what about the next time? You know, basically like, they're gonna still come after you. And he's like, yeah, I don't worry about tomorrow, man. I just like live for today.
This feels like the end of like an episode of like Johnny Quest or something, when they're like just all laughing about everything that just happened, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like, okay, well, where were the other X-Men when they were waiting to clear space? Were they like, they must have been like way in the back, because like if Wolverine's just been up front the whole time, like they would have just saw him if they were anywhere near where the pilots were.
Yeah.
So like maybe his hand here, maybe he's like opening a door or something to come into the cockpit.
Yeah.
And and then Wolverine's like, you know, hey, let's bust out some drinks and celebrate. We're going home. Finally. And that is it for issue 121.
Yeah.
Of the Uncanny X-Men. Next issue, Cry for the Children.
Oh my God. Yeah, I don't even know what's going to happen next issue. I don't, because they really left us with no cliffhanger on that one.
Yeah, this is the first issue in a long time.
Yeah,
there hasn't been a cliffhanger.
Yeah,
and maybe even the first one.
I feel like it is
in the Claremont run where there hasn't been a cliffhanger waiting for us.
Yeah.
So what do you think, Chris, of our 2-part introduction to the Canadian superheroes Alfa Flight?
I don't know. I kind of feel like Alfa Flight's kind of lame.
Well, yeah, they're no X-Men, that's for sure.
No. But I have hope that for them that they will get better. So
yeah, they're not too bad though. You know, they've got some cool visuals going on, especially some more than others.
Yeah,
they've got some interesting powers. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here in the classic one, you get a pretty cool cover that shows the whole Alfa Flight team. Got Kieran Dwyer on the cover here with Austin on inks.
Yeah, great. That's a great cover.
And as you discovered, you told me right before the show. What did you tell me?
The Kieran Dwyer was John Byrne's stepson.
Yeah, interesting. Very interesting. So here's the interior cover for that, of the fight with them. Mm-hmm. And then extra pages. So we get an interlude here where we've got sort of this. It's the Canadian federal capital in Ottawa, and there's a sort of there's an attorney in here who the two attorneys. I don't know who these girls are actually, but he is talking. Oh, I think it's the pilots. Actually, they found a lawyer. The pilots of the plane that that Sasquatch destroyed, and the lawyer comes and starts talking to this lawyer at the Capitol about how, you know, you had your federal agents destroyed this plane. How are you going to pay for this? You know, and then we get this. You know, he's like, you wish to file a claim for damages, sir? And then you get this moment where you see this Japanese flag pull up with this car, and the ambassador from Japan comes in and gets into it with the Canadian representatives, saying, hey, your government agency basically is kidnapped and is trying to fight these superheroes that are just returning from Japan as heroes for saving Japan. And how dare you fight them? It's kind of a weird little interlude there.
Yeah, it's an interlude of like governmental debate.
Yeah, exactly.
Although I can already see it actually gives you like a good page turn reveal for Alpha Flight, which I appreciate.
That's what it ended up doing. It saved that page turn. And as it goes on, so this is all the same stuff here. And then here we've got another
come back to them.
Yeah, we go back to them, and it sort of starts talking about how the weather pattern is that's where it is like there will be snow in the Caribbean by morning. You know, like they're talking about how like this governmental agency that the Alpha Flight is causing problems, you know, and like you got to stop them because this weather pattern is not normal and it's obviously caused by them. So we gotta take care of it.
Interesting that they know that it's caused by Alpha Flight. Like they must have known that was the plan.
Yeah. And then we get one more page here at the end where you got them finding the car that Wolverine was in. And I don't know what Sasquatch is doing to this person here. It's like he's got a piece of the metal and like the Mountie is like, I don't know, on the metal. It doesn't really make any sense what's happening there. But then you get the Prime Minister coming in, who's like we established before is like a creep looking guy. Yeah. Basically saying, you know, you guys screwed up. You lost the asset, and Alpha Flight it means it's maybe a fiscal liability, and you know that Canada can't afford. So if they don't fix their problems here, they're gonna lose their funding.
Ooh, interesting.
So Alpha Flight may have to go rogue. And then you get a Bolton drawn backup here, which is a pretty crazy one. It starts with this like handyman janitor guy kind of like cleaning a drain here, and all of a sudden this like hair clog monster jumps out of the sink.
That's a pretty horrific image.
Yeah. And then we skip to this like burger restaurant that Scott is walking into and just trying to order some burgers. And the guy flipping burgers back there, he talks about how this used to be like a big town. There was like a what is it, like a chemical plant that was there, and the town was booming, and so his dad built this burger place, and now he just flips it for like these like low income artists who live in lofts that have been built in this plant. And he all of a sudden this is a very like horn doggy issue or story that this guy is like, check out that looker outside, and he was like, the redhead, oh yeah, she's your gal, sure is, jeez. Like he's just like drooling over Jean. And then it goes outside, and we see this conversation between Wolverine and Jean, and he's like, you got to deal with it, baby. Deal with what? Oh, now we're going to be all coy and innocent, huh? Cut the phony act, Jean. There's a current running hot between us, a two-way current. and you may love Scott, but you want me. I do not. And then he's just like, oh yeah, you do. You know, like You got to deal with the backlash, or deal with it, or there'll be backlash. Like flushing something bad down the drain. It's got to back up sometime. Bury it, and it'll get back to you. Okay, Logan, I'll deal with it. One of us has to leave the team, leave the X-Men. And then, Scott comes out and interrupts the thing. And all of a sudden, Jean just like, wait a second, there's trouble in the factory. I can sense it. Hang on, I'm going to carry you guys. So she just takes off. So Wolverine's coming in hot here. Like,
yeah, man, like the burger guy's not the only one drooling.
Yeah, like what is up? Like
it makes me wonder at what chronological point this little side story takes place, because when they were in Japan, Wolverine had kind of forgotten all about Jean. When he met Mariko.
Yeah. Well, they still, I think, in continuity, Jean still doesn't know that they're alive.
Oh yeah, that's true. So this has to either be good call. It has to be it's got to be after all that.
I guess it's kind of odd. Usually they kind of kept this in continuity.
It's usually pretty close, but sometimes, not.
So they go here and they find the janitor, and he's like, I told them that they need to clean up the chemicals, and they've been busting the pipes down there down below have been busting and brewing and belching for years, and it's grown some sort of horrible monster. The whole place is vibrating. And so, like, they're talking about the shaking is getting worse, and all of a sudden Jean and Logan fall into a pit here, and Scott's like, oh my god. And so now they're down here, and it gets like weirder.
Those the right hand page there, those top 3 panels,
these,
if you would take those just out of the context, and basically almost even just like get rid of the word bubbles, like my first instinct would be that's from an Aliens comic.
Exactly, that's what I felt too.
Right.
And with the way that the hair monster is designed too, and then there's a lot of alien things too, because once we get into the Brood and stuff, which are very much aliens, so it's like you all right? Yeah, okay. Look at this labyrinth, like inside out, like the inside of somebody's guts. And he's like, what's this? Something soft. And she's like, that's my leg. And he's like, sorry. Oh, okay.
Oh, copping a feel. Wolverine.
Yeah, and she's like not having it. So it's like, what the hell, dude? And then, well, which way? It's so dark. And he's like, I love the darkness. She's like, let's go down this tunnel. Swell, after you. Blasted, I can't see. Really? View's fine from here. From here, just fine. Like, he's looking at her butt as they're crawling through here. Like, what the heck? And then she's like, don't do that. Do what? Touch me. I'm not. And then she turns around and one of these things is on her. So he's being super creepy down here. And then so these like things just come up, and he starts like shredding them. And she starts using her telekinetic powers to blast them. And then he's like, what's the matter? Why so nervous? I'll protect you. I'm right here, right up close behind you, watching every move you make. And she's like, Logan, please. We have to deal with these creatures. The creatures, yes, let's deal with the creatures. Maybe it's the monster from the id. You're not helping. Remember the old 50s flick? The guys suppressed his anger, and it created a shut up. I don't know what that is. Do you?
I don't either.
I don't know the reference. Anyways, yeah. So they're like crawling through here. These things are closing in on him. He's like, oh, it looks like we're going to be smashed together here. It's getting hot and close, inevitable. Wolverine, this is not a game or a joke. We could suffocate and die. What a way to go. You're impossible. Like, why don't you relax? There's nowhere to go. Not that I mind you're wiggling around. Like, what the fuck?
What a creeper.
Yeah, enough. You've got to figure out how to kill it. Why kill it? I like it. It's dangerous. It would kill us. I like danger. It'll be fun. Let's go with it. Logan, do you mind? Move your knee. Look at them. So disgusting. I think they're kind of cute. And then, yeah, he's like, let's just curl up and let it happen. Why resist fate? So he's kind of rapey here. And then she's like, Scott. And he's like, what's that? A little telepathic cry for help? Don't call in your conscience, Gene. It's no help. Quiet. I'm scanning for thoughts. Everyone left the building, and Scott's giving me the go ahead. So let's do it. And then they get covered with all this stuff, and she just explodes the whole place.
Yeah, just firebombs the whole thing.
Yeah, which obviously we know Wolverine will be just fine, And they're like, "What's that?" You'll see. Genie, you okay? It was horrible. And then he starts walking away and says, "It's the best time I've had in months." And so that's a super creeper Logan story.
Yeah, like the monsters are pretty, like horrific. But then like he's also like pretty terrible.
Yeah, that's like that one's a rough one. That doesn't hold up very well in 2024. But I mean, I guess we're getting to know Wolverine there a little bit, and that's 10 years after this, the story that we've had. So it's kind of interesting. I just don't know where that falls into everything. But here is Bolton's back cover, which looks really cool.
Yes, I mean, but overall, I mean, that's a good looking horror story.
It's a really great horror story. It's even more horrific from his behavior.
Yeah,
but no, it looks really great. I mean,
yeah.
When you said it's like aliens, you're exactly right. It's just like that.
You can tell, like we've said, Bolton was definitely enjoyed this one. Like he was in on this idea.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it's like, oh, I have to do what?
Yeah. Well, the last issue, if you remember, he had to draw like like cartoony characters, and it was not his strong suit. So he probably was like, no, give me this. There's great facial expressions though too. Like when he's on, he's on. When he's off, he's off. He's an interesting illustrator.
Yeah.
But I feel like he's progressively gotten better too, as it's gone on. As you do, if you're a good artist, you get better. So
yeah. And are you familiar with his Call story?
I'm not.
It was like
the Batman stuff.
No, like Call, like the Barbarian.
Oh no.
Yeah, it was in one of those like Marvel graphic novels or whatever.
Hang on. You mean Matt?
No, he didn't. No, a different one. But like,
okay.
Yeah, is he in those?
I don't know. Let's see.
Is he in that one?
Let's see. I don't know, where does it say who drew them? Man, it doesn't really. Here we go. Jerry Kahn, Just Jolaman did this one. It looks like maybe all the way through. I'm not sure. You got to catch it at the end, but anyway, so he did stories based off this character.
Yeah, I'll have to dig it out for next time just to flip through, because like when you say like when he's on, and like boy,
he's
how
on,
and like in that Call that he did, he is on like an MFer. It is amazing.
Look at Howie Chaykin.
That's right. Yeah, the Howard Chaykin Red Sonja stuff is in those issues. Yeah.
Let's see if the end. No, that's Gil Kane, I think. So.
Yeah. Yeah, that looks like Kane.
Yeah. So no, he's not in that. But when you said, "Do you know Cull?" and then I turn around and it's like the first thing in my magazine pile.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'll have to check that out. But yep, there we go. That is issue 121. 121 of Xmen. All right. So anything else to add, John?
No, I mean, good issue. good stuff. X-Men. Now the X-Men finally are going to get home, and we'll see what that fallout is, because they think people are dead. Other people think they're dead. And we've been
Professor X is
slowly
off in space.
Yeah, everybody's just sort of left, and they don't know it. So we'll find out how they deal with it.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, it will be issue 122 of X-Men, or Classic X-Men 28, or get it however you need to read it. But that's where we're at next week. I have no idea what's going to happen, so that's kind of cool for me too. So I guess nothing left to say here except for we'll see you next week, and
that's right. Be excellent, everybody.
Later. Bye. Check out DinoBeast.com for all things John Coates, like Dino Beast, Ninja 4, M.L.F, Berserker, and more. ChrisAndersonComics.com is where it's at for books like Chaotic Neutral, Spectral, A Showcase of Fear, Lost Angels, and more, plus apparel and original art. Also a link to Patreon where you can read Three-Headed Pig Man now. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon. We'll see you next time on the Chris Claremont X-Men Comic Club.